Friends, this program is brought to you by the generous support of people like you. Founders Church of Religious Science, a center for spiritual living in Los Angeles, is committed to providing you with inspirational messages daily and weekly to enhance your spiritual journey into your best possible life. To become a supporter, please visit our website or click the link on this page to inform you on how to make your gift. We thank you.
Hello, friend. Today I want to share with you some thoughts on creative spirituality for rebuilding your life. All of us at some point will want to know, how can I rebuild my life? Why, for example, would I need to rebuild my life? Well, many of us have had the impact of COVID. Some of us have been out of a job. Some of us are trying to get back into the job market. And there are many other reasons. Some of us have lost loved ones. And we have to overcome those seemingly negative things that happen in our lives so that we can move forward. The worst thing in life is to think that you've gotten into some little ditch where you're stuck there and you can't get out. You have to find a way to understand that what's going to take you out is consciousness. What are you thinking? What are you believing? What are you hoping for? And so today I want to look at some ideas that I call creative prayer, purpose, plan, perseverance, and action. And if you can use these 5 ways of coming out of your issue, you will find your path to something new and something wonderful. And that's why we're here together. So when I think of creative prayer, I think of how it is that many of us come to religion and we have heard many, many times that we are to be moral. In other words, we are to look at our behavior and see how we behave with each other. But not too often do we come and hear that there is powerful principles and laws that can be used to make our lives better, that can be used creatively. And these laws are working all the time. These laws are working because that's the nature of life. Life is forever changing. In other words, forever creating. And the great thing is, you were born to be creative. You are ideally made to be in this world and to do the kind of things that you can do to make life work. So, when we talk about prayer then, what we are looking at is the fact that you are communing with a power and a presence greater than you are that you can use. And to some extent, we all do this. It's not like, gee, I'm going to do this for the first time, so what is it I do? Once you begin to think in a deeply feeling way, you're already using this power. But if you do not know that you're using this power, when you are negative, and oftentimes we are negative because of the fact that we have a system within us that is supposed to be protective of us. It's defensive. It's the fight or flight system that we have that is always looking for what isn't working, looking for what might harm us. And we don't really need that system anymore, as we need once upon a time when we were just barely more than all the other creatures in the world. We don't have those dangers, but we still have the responses. And unless we use our consciousness to get over them, they will be a problem for us, because we have a tendency to say, well, let me go hear the news. Let me go hear all the bad things. And we need to hear the news, but we don't need to overhear the news. We need to know what's going on in our world. But we need to find a way to keep our mind positive. As the Hebrew Bible says, keep your mind stayed on thee. Stayed on the good, so that we can use that to transport ourselves over the rough terrain of confusion that is around us every day, but we don't have to be part of it. So we started creative prayer. And we started creative prayer because the first thing we want to do is to feel that sense of the divine, that sense of the God of the universe, that God that is beyond each person's religion, and that God that doesn't even have a religion, but everyone in their own cultural way say, well, this is how God is. And that's fine. We don't have to fight over this. But those of us who are willing to grow out of the fact that it's like in a family, you begin to see what your family looks like, and you think that that's how the world should look for everybody else's family. But when you begin to travel and experience other people, then there's a sense that life is far more than my family make it. And similarly, in religion, that you will come to a point where you understand that the God of the universe doesn't really have a religion. And so you want to, whether you're doing it locally with your concepts of God right now, it's fine. Or you want to come to a place where you begin to contemplate the vastness of the universe and how small the earth is. It's like a mote of dust compared to God, to the universe. And therefore, we're little tiny creatures that hardly even exist compared to the size of the universe. And we think that somehow we have the power over the entire universe, but that's not it. The point is we have the power over our lives. The world that we have power over it. But how are we going to take that power? We have to move up into consciousness. And that's why we are hearing teachings like that you are made in the image and likeness of God. That's a concept that you have to grasp. It's not something you can look around and say, well, what's the image of God? How do I compare to that? It's an inward reflection that you do. And so we are contemplating God, and we're contemplating that since God is omnipresent, then whatever God is, we're one with God. And in that sense, the experience of unity is peace. And peace means that we have quieted down all the confusion, and they have simply fallen away, pretty much like turning the light on in a dark room. And so we come to it now, realizing that we are now in that compartment of life that is creative. And it is the one that Jesus talked about where he says, in my Father's house, there are many rooms or many mansions. And this room or mansion, we can go into many different rooms of consciousness. This one is about creativity and about your prayer. And when you come into the room of consciousness that is about creativity and prayer, what we need to understand is that we are activating the law of mind in action. We are activating the law of mind so that we can find that thoughts are influencing the direction of the law that works for us. And we're doing it all the time, whether we know it or not. When we are negative and we believe something won't work, it doesn't work. And the law is still working, but it's working on your belief, as you believe. So that's why Jesus told the centurion that go home, your servant will be as you believe. And we need to come to a place where we understand that creative prayer is about embodying the belief that are sacred to you, that are important to you, that are vital to you, the belief of your greatest desires. So what we see here is in this silence, in this new room or mansion that you're in, we find Ernest Holmes quoting Lao Tzu that says, anyone who can achieve absolute silence within himself can conquer the world. We're not talking about soldiers, we're not talking about armies, we're not talking about killing people. We're talking about the world, which means the subjective world. That's where you live. You don't live out there and out there and out there. What you're doing is taking images from out there and subjectively processing them in here. That's where you really live. That's where your world is. And if you believe your world is confusing, it means I am confused. That's what it means. And so when you look at the world, if you don't come to it with a sense of order and peace and possibilities, then naturally you will see it in confusion. And you will get back confusion, because whatever you put out there as your word, as your thought, as your consciousness is what you are attracting back to yourself. What will happen too is that you'll begin to feel a natural optimism. You'll feel confident. You'll feel a faith. And it is a faith that passes all understanding. It's a sense that something spontaneously happens when you are in that view of life. You will also feel the empowerment that I am not a victim in this life. There's something in me that is guided and guarded by a power greater than myself. And so fear begins to wane and fall away. So what's the problem? What's the issue? You can now bring that issue and that problem in the sphere of this new consciousness, in this room, in this very room that you are in, this room that Jesus called the many mansions in my Father's house, because that's where you are, and you'll do this. And you'll be led by the Christ Spirit. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. It means the Christ Spirit. So you put on the consciousness of the Christ, just as Paul talks about. You put on the consciousness of the Christ. And what is the Christ? The Christ is the anointed of God. The anointed of God means you have some wonderful things to do in this life. And once you begin to know them, it shifts the way your life works. You're not just working to make a living, you're working to make a life. And we all should do this, and we all can do this. It's not about your job. Of course, the job is included, but it's where are you going? What do you want? How do you intend to get there? And when you feel this, you can now accept that something has changed in your life. Even though it's only in consciousness, something has changed. You begin to walk with a bounce in your step, and you begin to really know what it means when Jesus said, fear not, little flock, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Can you imagine that? Think about that. It is the Father's good pleasure to do what? To give me the kingdom. My question to you is it your good pleasure to accept the kingdom? What's the kingdom? Don't think about a kingdom of somewhere where a king lives in that sense. Think of it as a metaphor for the infinite possibilities that you need to draw from to have what it is that you need. You don't need everything, you need what you need, and it's there. But you must receive it in consciousness first. So in a sense, once you have activated the universal law of mind in action, then the result is the creative law is working for you as if it were in your employment. And somewhere or other, somehow or other, you'll know what to do, when to do it, where to do it, and how to do it. And you will always know that it is being done now, in the present moment. So that's what we do with our prayer. We give thanks. We realize that this is part and parcel of the relationship that we have with God, the creative relationship. So let's take purpose now. Purpose is a way of knowing the truth about yourself, which we can call God's initial aim. There is something about you that is true, that whenever you know it, you feel free. The truth is not some verse you take from the Bible and say, well, let me recite this and that's the truth. The truth is really a revelation of who you really are in respect to the world in which you live. And when you find that truth, it's no different from Jesus saying, before Abram was, I am. In other words, that truth takes you back to God's initial aim for you. That you're here in a way that allows you to fulfill some aspect of the good that God is giving to the world. The prophet Jeremiah says something similar. He says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You notice he didn't say a prophet to just his tribe, to just Jeremiah's tribe, to the nations. Why? Because when a truth is spoken, it doesn't belong to any tribe. It belongs to all the people. And the idea of knowing you before you were born is that this is God's initial aim. This is the fact that there are seeds of power within you that will direct you as you move properly toward what it is, appropriately to what it is that you should be doing with your life. And when you're not doing it, you'll feel bored, you'll feel like you're out of sort. So when you think about a prophet, you say, well, I'm no prophet. I'm no prophet, so what are you telling me about prophet? Well, who is a prophet? You think it is somebody who tells the future? Well, some people think that's what it is. But a prophet really is one who speaks for God. And you want to tell me that you can't speak for God? The idea is to speak your truth as you'd best know it. If you do that, you're speaking for God. And in that sense, you're a prophet. Now, the question of anointment is, I believe everyone is anointed. Everyone comes in life with abilities to do certain things, with the initial aim. It's just that we focus on certain people and say, well, he was anointed to be king. Well, you're anointed to be king or queen over your domain, your life. That is this self-responsible aspect of your journey that you must grow into spiritual maturity. But you can best do it when you begin to focus more narrowly on what it is that you're to do and combine it with the value of who you think you are. I'm a loving person. I'm a peaceful person. I'm a kind person. That's value. Values are not aims. Values can be accepted immediately. Aims are something that you can achieve over time. That's what an aim or a purpose is. So there are two different things, but they complement each other. They work side by side. And so Jesus said, enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and broad that leads to destruction. So you get confused. You're doing too many things. You're just trying to be everything to everybody. Lead to destruction. And many enter through it, he says. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only few find it. No, he's not saying only few can find it. He's saying that people do not seem to understand that you have to focus your life on what it is that you need to do with it. So, have you given your purpose any thought? Are you focused? Do you know what you love to do? Do you know what your talents are? How can you best serve the world you're in? When you take time to contemplate and meditate upon these things, then what you will find is that answers will begin to come to you. Journal them, write them down, and then at some point come back to them and reflect upon them. And you will find that revealed to you will be something very insightful. You will know your purpose. Let's go to plan. Benjamin Franklin once said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So, is your life an accident? Or are you going to choose a purpose? Your life is not an accident when you choose a purpose. You know why you're here. You're no accident. And so the purpose is to find your purpose in this life. God doesn't push the purpose on you, but He gives you an aim, a direction in which to look. And the direction comes from the talents and gifts and the situation that you find yourself in this life. You have to be respectful of time. That's why you plan. Some people say, well, time is just a made-up thing. Yes, time is somewhat of an abstraction. The only thing that is not an abstraction is you living in this world right now that is objective. But all the ideas you have of God and all the ideas you have of spirituality and all of these things are abstraction. So why pick on time? The reason you really want to pick on time is because time is your most valuable commodity. Once you lose it, you cannot regain it. And so all of us are here to become more efficient and effective by learning how to focus and use our time well. Take a look at how many ways you waste time. And when you say you can't find time to do the things you really want, all of a sudden, if you move those things out that are really not important, that you're wasting your time on, and focus on what is important, you will get it. So success, think of success as the process. That you need your vision, and you need your purpose, and you need your goal. Ask yourself, where do I wish to be in 5 years? Where do I wish to be in 3 years, in 2 years, in 1 year, in 6 months, in 1 week, in the next day? Begin to see the opportunities you have to really make progress in things that you thought were impossible to achieve. All because you are now seeing that you have this time. So don't make what Franklin says of people who fail to plan because they're planning to fail. You don't have to be that person. Let's talk about perseverance. We have all heard one of the most impactful saying by Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge says, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more commonplace than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unsuccessful genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Well, when we think of Coolidge's insight, they can be very helpful because we can use, gee, I don't know if I have enough talent for something and then don't do it. Or you can feel very talented and still don't do it. So if you do not persist, especially when you get a little resistance, then it's going to fall apart. It looks hard when you're going to start. But once you get into the process, and once you get the discipline of having to do what needs to be done, it's no problem. You can do it. We are all talented. If you want to know the truth, psychologists say that we have 32 talents. And if you can find your 5 signature talents, that gives you your best chance to succeed if you will work with a combination of those major talents that you have. And you can find them by knowing what you love to do. You feel really energized. Oh, I love to do this. All you have to do is find a way to work with your talent when you're earning so that what you're earning can increase because people can see just how brilliant you are. You're really a genius as far as your life is concerned. You don't have to compare with, gee, can I invent this? Can I make this scientific breakthrough? Can I write great literature? That's not what it is about. It's about, can I fulfill myself by doing what I love to do? And let that be the okay thing for me. It is said that the road to success is dotted with tempting parking places. You're going along and you see this parking place and you decide to, oh, let me stay here. Why? Because you're a little tired. Well, I know somebody who told me that, I need to treat myself well. And I'm not quarreling with that. That is probably true. But they use that as an excuse of not pushing a little farther to get to where they need to be because they're too busy rewarding themselves. You should reward yourself. But get in the habit of thinking that you have to stop everything to reward yourself. Henry Ward Beecher says, the difference between perseverance and obstinacy is that one comes from a strong will and the other comes from a strong won't. If you really want to get to somewhere, in New Thought and Science of Mind, we don't like to talk about strong will, but there's nothing wrong with talking about a strong will. If that's what appeals to you, yeah. A strong will just means that you have embodied what it is that you wish to do, and so you're not easily pushed off your path. And Thomas Edison once said, when the world says give up, hope whispers, try one more time. Take it from a man that knows how to do that. The final thing is action. Life is action. Many of us just want to pray and let God do it. Oh, I pray and I say, let God, and God will do it. No, that's not what's going to happen. Action is the logical thinking or outcome. Let me put it this way. Action is the logical outcome of your thinking. That's what action is. You don't think just to think. You think so that you can act more effectively in the world. Can you imagine if you had no hands and legs and you can't move around and you can't do anything? You wouldn't want that, would you? So why do you have them and not want to do something with them? They're here to give you the facility to change your world and to change the world for the better for everybody else. And so the creative use of action is recognizing that the universe has nothing, that it holds nothing against you. It is there to support you. Even if you have been a terrible person, it still supports you. You don't stop breathing just because you're a terrible person. What you stop doing is feeling grounded in peace and love and goodness. But yeah, you can still go out there and make a lot of money and being, the devil incarnate. Jesus said, he causes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good and sends his rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. You see what I'm saying? The law is impersonal. It works for everybody. So people can say, well, does he have a great consciousness because he is rich, but he's such a terrible person? The truth is you can be just like that. But as I said before, the idea is not for you to turn into a terrible person as you get what you want. The idea is for you to turn into the best version of yourself that you can be. And a person who is a terrible person is a house divided against himself in terms of peace and love and a sense of belonging and harmony in the world. And sooner or later, it will catch up with them. So process is really the greatest miracle of life. And process is said by the Buddhists to look in the direction you want to go and start walking. That's process. It's one step after another. Calvin Coolidge says, we cannot do everything at once, but we can do something at once. We can do something at once. You don't have to be doing... So what does that mean? You set your priority and you do what needs to be done. A couple more of these and I will end this talk on creative spirituality for rebuilding your life. Andrew Carnegie, he says, as I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say. I watch what they do. And Benjamin Franklin says, he that waits upon fortune is never sure of a dinner. Let me leave one perhaps humorous piece with you before I go. This is an Irish prayer. You know, some people don't really want to treat you good, and some of us believe that, and maybe there are some people like that. So here's a prayer for you. It says, may those who love us, and those who do not love us. May God turn their, pardon me, I read that wrongly. May those who love us, and those who do not love us, may God turn their hearts. And if He cannot turn their hearts, may He turn their ankles, that we may know them by their limping. God bless. Hello, friends. We're here to make this world better as we can. And we're doing this together. This ministry is not only from me, but it's also supported by you. So I'm inviting you to take part and give us your support. And if you choose to do that, I want you to look at the screen, and you will see many different ways in which you can send in your contribution to us and help us to go out and help more people. We can make this a very strong ministry if you think it's worthwhile, and if you think that not only you should hear it, but your friends. I'm also inviting you to share the information that we send it to you. Send it to your friends. Let them see it. And let's all do this, and we will have a better world. God bless you, and thank you for your support. Let us turn within right now and feel how wonderful it is to know that we can come into a creative compartment in mind where there is all these possibilities of life that may not appear to be on the outside in the objective world right now, but in the subjective world. We are in the center of infinite possibilities. And we are uniting with that one power so that we can get our lives on track. We can rebuild our lives with spiritual principles, creative spiritual prayer. We're using this right now to know that as we change our consciousness, there is a universal law picking up on what it is that we're thinking and feeling. And we know that as we believe this, we will begin to demonstrate it on the outside. So knowing that this is true, knowing that you're blessed, knowing that you're doing exactly this, and you're moving into your greater expression of who you are, I say thank you, Father, Mother, God. And together let us affirm, and so it is. Thank you for sharing this time. Peace.